The federal government is claiming its agents acted in self-defense, but eyewitness video appears to show a different story.
The video shows ICE agents approaching an SUV stopped across the middle of the road in a residential neighborhood.
This is absolutely becoming chaos for Donald Trump. And I mean that in the most literal way possible, because what just happened isn't some partisan politician criticizing Trump's policies. This isn't a Democratic governor complaining about federal overreach. This is the police chief standing in front of cameras and essentially telling the President of the United States that his immigration crackdown is going to get more people killed, that officers are going to die because of Trump's policies, that communities are being torn apart, and that if Trump doesn't stop what he's doing immediately, it will lead to total disaster. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe. That's why we built John Brown Show, to bring you real stories and real context. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara just went on national television and delivered what can only be described as a final warning to Trump. Not through anonymous sources, not through carefully worded statements released by spokespeople. O'Hara himself on camera saying that Trump's mass deportation campaign has pushed policing to what he called a breaking point, and he made it clear that what happened in his city, a woman getting shot and killed by federal agents during an immigration operation, that's just the beginning unless something changes right now. Share this video with everyone you know because this completely destroys Trump's entire political brand. Trump has spent years positioning himself as the law and order president, the guy who backs the blue, the guy who supports police and keeps communities safe. And now you have an actual police chief, someone who's responsible for public safety in a major American city, saying Trump's policies are making everything more dangerous, that officers can't do their jobs because communities won't talk to them anymore, that federal agents are operating without coordination with local police and people are dying because of it. The incident that pushed O'Hara to speak out happened on January 10th. A woman named Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent during what was supposed to be a routine immigration enforcement stop. But nothing about what happened was routine. Federal agents rolled into a Minneapolis neighborhood conducting operations that local police weren't controlling and didn't even know the full details of. Something went wrong. An agent opened fire, and a woman died in the street while bystanders watched in horror. Make sure you're subscribed to John Brown Show because O'Hara made it absolutely clear in his press conference that this shooting never should have happened, that his department wasn't in charge of the operation, that federal agents came into his city and conducted enforcement actions without proper coordination, and now a civilian is dead and his officers have to deal with the community fallout from something they had no control over. Think about what that means. You're a local cop in Minneapolis. You've spent years building relationships in the neighborhoods you patrol, getting people to trust you enough to report crimes and cooperate with investigations. And then federal agents show up, conduct operations however they want, shoot someone, and leave. And now nobody in that community wants to talk to you anymore because they're terrified that any interaction with any kind of law enforcement might end with them or their loved ones getting killed or deported. O'Hara explained exactly this problem in an interview with the New York Times that dropped right after the shooting. He said Trump's immigration enforcement tactics have eroded public trust so badly that residents won't call the police anymore, won't report crimes, won't cooperate with investigations, because they're too scared of what might happen if federal agents find out they talk to cops about anything. And when that trust disappears, communities become more dangerous for everyone. Crimes go unsolved, violent criminals stay on the streets, witnesses refuse to come forward, victims suffer in silence because they're too afraid to ask for help. That's not safety. That's the breakdown of the entire social contract that allows policing to work in the first place. Share this with everyone because O'Hara didn't just criticize the tactics. He warned about what's coming next if Trump doesn't change course. He used the phrase breaking point multiple times. That's not hyperbole. That's a police chief with decades of experience saying we've reached the limit of what's sustainable, that the collision between local policing needs and federal immigration priorities has created a situation that can't continue without more tragedy. And Trump's response? He's doubling down, sending more federal agents into cities, deploying National Guard troops to assist with immigration enforcement, escalating confrontations instead of trying to calm things down. He's treating O'Hara's warning like it's just noise from someone who doesn't understand what needs to be done. Like the concerns of a major city police chief about officer safety and community trust don't matter compared to Trump's political agenda. The shooting in Minneapolis triggered something massive. Over 1,000 protests erupted across the country, not just in liberal cities, everywhere. People taking to the streets to say what happened to Renee Good cannot happen again. That Trump's immigration crackdown has gone too far. That federal agents operating without accountability are making communities less safe, not more safe. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because these protests show how much anger is building. How many people are watching what's happening and deciding they can't stay silent anymore? How much resistance Trump is facing from ordinary citizens who see his tactics as dangerous and counterproductive? And now they have a police chief validating their concerns, giving them a credible law enforcement voice saying the same things they've been saying. O'Hara's criticism is particularly devastating because it comes from someone who should be Trump's natural ally. Police chiefs typically lean conservative. They support tough-on-crime policies. They want resources and backing from political leaders. But O'Hara is saying Trump's approach isn't tough on crime. It's creating crime. It's making his job harder. It's putting his officers at risk. That's not what support for law enforcement looks like. Think about what that means politically. Trump needs to be able to say he backs the police, that he's the guy who gives cops what they need to keep communities safe. But when actual police chiefs start saying publicly that Trump's policies are endangering officers and destroying community safety, that message falls apart. Democrats can point to O'Hara every time Trump claims to support law enforcement and say, here's a police chief who says you're making everything worse. The details of what happened to Renee Good matter because they illustrate exactly what O'Hara is warning about. Federal agents conducting operations in neighborhoods they don't know, without relationships with the communities they're operating in, without coordination with local police who understand the dynamics. And when something goes wrong, when an agent makes a decision that results in someone dying, the local department has to pick up the pieces. O'Hara said explicitly that Minneapolis police were not in control of that operation, that federal agents were running the show, that his department is now dealing with the aftermath of something they didn't approve and couldn't stop. That's an impossible position for a police chief. Your city, your jurisdiction. But federal agents come in and do whatever they want, and you're left cleaning up the mess. And the broader pattern here is what makes O'Hara's warning so urgent. This isn't just about one shooting in Minneapolis. It's about a systematic approach to immigration enforcement that prioritizes political theater over public safety. Trump wants dramatic images, agents making arrests, federal forces flooding cities, deportation numbers he can brag about at rallies. But effective policing requires something completely different. It requires trust. Communities need to believe that calling the police will help them, not hurt them. That reporting crimes won't result in family members being deported, that cooperating with investigations won't put them in danger from federal agents. Without that trust, policing becomes impossible. You can have all the agents and all the resources in the world, but if nobody will talk to you, you can't solve crimes or prevent violence. O'Hara is saying Trump has destroyed that trust in service of his political agenda, and officers are going to pay the price, not just metaphorically. Literally. Officers are going to get hurt or killed because communities won't give them information they need to stay safe, won't warn them about dangerous situations, won't cooperate with the basic functions that keep everyone, including cops, alive. Trump's response reveals everything about his priorities. A normal president would hear this warning from a major city police chief and at least pause to reconsider, would improve coordination with local departments, would adjust tactics to rebuild some level of community trust, but Trump isn't capable of admitting anything he's doing might be wrong, so instead of course-correcting after a civilian got killed, he's escalating. More federal agents, more military deployments, more aggressive enforcement. He's betting that his base wants crackdowns regardless of the cost, that images of ICE operations and deportations are worth more politically than actual public safety outcomes, that he can dismiss concerns from law enforcement professionals as weakness or political opposition. The comparison to what Trump is doing internationally is striking. In Venezuela, he ordered military action that critics say violated international law and basic diplomatic norms. In American cities, he's conducting immigration enforcement that police chiefs say violates community trust and basic policing norms. Same pattern. Dramatic action for political effect. Dismissal of expert warnings. Escalation when confronted with evidence things are going wrong. Think about what that means for the next several months. If Trump keeps pushing this approach, there will be more incidents, more confrontations between federal agents and civilians, more situations where someone gets hurt or killed. And each time that happens, O'Hara's warning looks more prescient. More police chiefs might speak out. More communities might rise up in protest. The breaking point he described might arrive sooner than anyone expects. The erosion of trust O'Hara described isn't something that gets fixed quickly once it's broken. When immigrant communities become terrified of any interaction with law enforcement, that fear doesn't disappear when a policy changes. It lingers. It spreads. It affects generations. People who watched federal agents kill their neighbor aren't going to start trusting police again because someone promises things will be different now. Let's be honest. O'Hara's decision to go public took real courage. Police chiefs don't typically criticize sitting presidents by name. There are professional risks, political risks, the possibility of retaliation. Federal funding could get cut. Relationships with federal agencies could deteriorate. But O'Hara clearly decided the situation had become serious enough that staying silent was more dangerous than speaking out. When he talked about officers paying the price, he wasn't being dramatic. He was talking about the men and women under his command who go out every day and try to do their jobs in an environment where Trump's policies have made everything harder and more dangerous. Where communities that used to cooperate now stay silent. Where federal operations create chaos that local cops have to manage. Where the next shooting might involve one of his officers because nobody warned them about a threat. The political implications are enormous heading into the midterms. Trump built his brand on being the law and order candidate, the guy who backs police and keeps America safe. But when police chiefs start saying publicly that Trump is making their jobs more dangerous and getting people killed, that brand collapses. Democrats have a credible law enforcement voice to cite every time Trump claims to support cops. And it's not just O'Hara. Police chiefs across the country are dealing with the same problems, the same erosion of community trust, the same tensions between federal priorities and local policing needs, the same impossible position of being caught between federal mandates and community safety. O'Hara might be the first to issue this kind of public warning, but he won't be the last if Trump continues down this path. And the confrontation between local law enforcement and Trump's federal immigration crackdown is going to define the next phase of his presidency. O'Hara drew a line, said this is a breaking point and something has to change. Either Trump listens and adjusts his approach, or more people die and more police chiefs speak out and the political damage compounds. The death of Renee Good has become a symbol, a representation of everything critics say is wrong with Trump's approach. A civilian killed by federal agents during an operation local police didn't control. A community traumatized, trust destroyed, and a police chief standing in front of cameras saying this didn't have to happen and it better not happen again. Trump is betting he can power through this criticism, that his base doesn't care about warnings from police chiefs or protests in the streets, that he can keep escalating and the political benefits will outweigh the costs. But O'Hara's warning suggests that calculation might be wrong, that there's a limit to how much damage communities and police departments can absorb before something breaks permanently. The breaking point isn't theoretical anymore. It arrived in Minneapolis when Renee Good was killed. O'Hara is warning that it could arrive in other cities, that more officers and more civilians are going to pay the price if federal immigration enforcement continues operating without regard for local policing needs or community safety. Think about what happens if O'Hara is right. If there's another shooting, another death, another community uprising, more police chiefs speaking out, more officers refusing to cooperate with federal operations they see as dangerous. Trump's law and order message becomes impossible to sustain when the people responsible for law and order are saying he's the problem. The next several months will reveal whether Trump is capable of listening to warnings like the one O'Hara delivered. Whether he can adjust his approach when confronted with evidence that people are dying because of his policies, or whether he'll keep escalating until the breaking point O'Hara warned about creates a crisis that can't be ignored or spun away. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. The warning has been delivered. The line has been drawn. Either Trump responds by changing course, or we find out what happens when a president ignores the police chiefs who are trying to keep their communities and their officers safe. And that answer might come sooner than anyone wants to admit.